No nos ganan, no nos ganan. Se los juro por Dios que no nos ganan. They won't beat us, they won't beat us. I swear by God that they won't beat us, cried the announcer on that glorious afternoon of August 1969 when Peru made it to Mexico 1970s World Cup. We were playing Argentina at La Bombonera Stadium, one of the most famous stadiums in the world, in Buenos Aires. And we only needed to draw to end 40 years of drought, of not showing up at a World Cup. On that day, my whole extended family had gathered at my grandfather's house to watch the match in front of that 24-inch black and white Philips TV. We were watching via satellite. The government had built a satellite, a massive satellite station just outside the city of Lima, so we could watch Neil Armstrong walking on the moon, Pelé scoring his 1,000th goal, and of course, that glorious match that afternoon. On that afternoon, in the streets of Lima, you could hear a pin drop. There was no trucks, no buses, no cars, no people on the streets. Every pub, every restaurant, every household was full of people watching the match. The only people in the streets were the police officers who were guarding the house of the general who had become president, who lived 3 doors up from my grandfather's house. And the poor guys were not even allowed a transistor radio, so every time they heard us scream, yeah, wow, they knocked on their window to see what had happened. Osvaldo Cachito Ramirez, a young player, had been called to the Peruvian national team just days before. And he scored 2 magnificent goals that afternoon, and we were winning 2-0. Argentina tied the game in the final seconds of the game, but it wasn't enough. Peru was going to the cup. Now, everybody in the country poured massively out into the streets. We sang Perú Campeón, a special song composed for the occasion. Perú campeón, es el grito que repite la afición. Perú campeón, dice en cada palpitar mi corazón. Hay que ir a triunfar al mundial, venceremos a todo rival. Con el lema, Perú va a campeonar, siempre arriba, Perú debe ganar. We sang that song until we had no voice left, and me and my cousins were really ready to go out in the street to celebrate with pots and pans, just with everybody on that day. And it's at that moment that my grandfather said, watch, just watch on TV. And there, via satellite, right as it was happening, we saw the massive crowd that had gathered outside the president's home. There was not hundreds, there were thousands of people there. And we couldn't get out of the house. The president wasn't coming out. And at some point, my grandmother, who had been making food for all of us, went out to see what was happening. And she came back screaming, "Mi jardín de rosas! My rose garden has been destroyed." It is at that moment that my grandfather marched to his studio and picked up that phone. And he called his powerful, most important neighbor. And he said, "General Velasco, Presidente Velasco," he said. And after some niceties about the game and celebratory words they exchanged, he said, "The people outside are chanting, Cachito Ramirez for Presidente, Cachito Ramirez for Presidente. He might muster enough popular support to replace you. You better go out there and harangue the massive crowd." Ah, in my wife's rose garden, well, it's history. And he hung up. We heard a big roar in the street. And a couple of minutes later, there on TV, we watched it. The president was out on the balcony. And my grandfather said, he's there, securing his job. 2 days later, some military men came with rose bushes, and my grandmother's garden was restored. Thank you.